That's a career.
Adequate notice of this meeting was provided to the Westfield Leader, advertised on January 5th, 2017. Notification was sent to the Star Ledger, commonly posted on the municipal public bulletin board, filed in the office of the municipal clerk, within the public and time and place according to provisions of the Open Public Meeting Law, Chapter 231, P.L. 1975. Good evening, everyone, and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor.
Mr. Ron, do you have anything for us this evening?
August 22nd, regular council meeting.
No, we have an ordinance I prepared for introduction, which is the Park Enforcement Officer. I just was given a memorandum about revision of planning board fees. Is somebody going to talk about that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Yes.
I'll talk about that later.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's all I have then, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, and we are going into executive session today.
Right.
Okay. Ms. Ariamo, do you have anything?
Yes, I do. The 2018 DOT grant application is due soon. Estimates and other related information must be prepared. So I have to work with Mr. Borriello via the internet. Did everybody get this from him back a while back? Because
Yes.
he disappeared, and I think I missed the pass out of this or something, but
Okay.
we're gonna have to kind of pick the streets, and I'm gonna have to tell him to prepare estimates, so he's not gonna be here, so he doesn't have to borrow an engineer anymore, but he's your contractual engineer, so he'll help me with the grant application, but, you know.
Since that document was given out, I took it and put it into Excel by the streets that were paved last, and we can share that document with him, and we can review it also.
I don't know if there's gonna be a chance for that, well, when, with whom, what were you talking about? What'd you say?
I put the information onto an Excel sheet
Right,
with the oldest streets being paved to the newest.
okay,
So maybe we can share that with Mr. Borriello and also the council, or Mr. Dixon can help us out with this.
The council
We did
received it
receive
a couple
it.
meetings ago, the one I was absent.
Yeah, we
So-
so
got
what,
we
that.
got
you
that.
have to decide what streets you want, so I can get him
Yes.
On
some
that street.
I got this.
estimates.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Since the Finance Committee has been looking at capital projects and the money being spent going forward each year, and we've discussed how, there's been a lot of equipment requests, but we have typically done a road project every year. We have some thoughts about future planning. I'd be willing to take it on in finance to come up with a recommendation for the 2018 DOT project if you'd like, or streets and roads, but like I said, finance is really looking at it not just as,
The global picture.
right, the global picture,
Okay.
exactly.
Yes, if you
So-
wouldn't mind taking that on, if the public works group can also assist you, that'd be great.
Okay, we do have a councilman that's on both committees, so
Oh,
that's
very good.
positive, I think.
Yeah,
Thank you. And, I know we had a couple questions for Don that came out of our own meeting. We got in touch with him.
Not yet.
Okay.
Well,
So I know we talked about like, you do more in 1 year, you get more, remember the whole?
Yeah,
gist of
I have it
everything?
all
So,
down. We just have to get in contact.
Going back
with
to
them.
your concern, Tina, yeah,
So-
we have a measured.
Next council meeting, what I wanted to do was be able to have estimates for you, so that you could tell me, because the council meeting after that is where I have to pass the resolution for the grant.
Okay.
So, because
So
when I
it's like
talk to you
timetable.
collectively, unless I'm here with you,
If it would be okay, what I would suggest is the finance committee look at it, given the mayor's spreadsheet, and the whole council can look at it, of course, but maybe the finance committee could come up with like 3 or 4 streets that could get estimates, and we could give those to you
yes,
before the next council
Yes.
meeting.
yes.
I think it's pretty clear that we're on the right track in terms of the fact that we've done road work each year, so we haven't neglected our roads, but there are many roads in town that could use paving. So I'm sure we can come up with a few that are in greater need than others, and then we can move forward to get some estimates.
And just so,
And then see how it compares to the global picture.
and just have the councilman to just go, so we discussed the idea, that we can, because we can still go forward and get estimates. What we were discussing is how many roads we're actually going to go forward with paving if we're going to consider putting more money towards equipment for capital projects. So that's something that we can still decide later on.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Right now, you just
We
make
just
an
need the
application.
estimates, so that's
Right.
fine. So we can use that list or try to generate through that list 3 or 4 projects that we think would be most.
And also on my street, on my block, the date was incorrect.
So, if if you can get me some streets, I will get estimates, so the next time I see you, I'll have estimates for 4 or 5 streets, you can decide, you can pick them. Then the following meeting, which is the second meeting in September, that's when I'll prepare the resolution, this one that says how much, and then I have the authorization to submit the grant. And then the grant is due between that time and the next time I see you.
Okay.
Follow me?
Would the bond come up for, like, incurring the debt later this year or next year?
Next year.
Next year, it is,
So what's gonna
okay.
happen is it'll take about 6 months or longer, 7 months, DOT will tell you how much you got, then I'll come back to you and say, okay, this is what you got, what do you wanna do, you wanna, usually you have, done every job that you estimated, but you don't wanna estimate too high, because then, you're not gonna get that, and
Right.
DOT frowns if you change what you put into it
Mhm.
at the end, so you wanna try to stick true to what you asked for.
Yep.
So then next year I'll come back to you like the beginning of the year, and I'll say you got to bond for this, and you bond in the spring, you go out for bid, and then you usually do the work
Okay.
Okay.
in the spring or something, you go for the fall, I don't know. But anyway, no, you're not bonding now,
Okay, thank you.
not for next year.
Thank you
So
for
nobody
that.
needs a copy of this, everybody, I don't have a lot, but I have, everybody's
We
got
don't
this.
I have one.
We don't have it.
All right, that's a lot I have.
One block was missing.
Okay.
Mhm. Fewer.
Okay.
Among
If
others.
there's any corrections, don't hesitate.
To you?
Yeah, just send me an email. Thank you. Any unfinished business? Any new business? I have a couple of things. On August the 8th, I sent out to all department heads and committees to remind them to submit an article on behalf of the Gazette on no later than Friday, August 25th, for the fall and winter edition of the Gazette. This edition will cover September through December. We plan to give the residents mailings to each household around Labor Day. I encourage all the council members to encourage their respective committees to submit their information as soon as possible. This is an excellent means of communication with our residents to let them know what is going on in our town. Not every household has a computer, and not everyone subscribes to social media. As previously announced, the mayors of Union County or their representatives met on August 16th at Manny's Diner in Clark. The meeting lasted approximately 1 hour, and the majority of the county was represented, and they discussed the following issues. First, to reestablish the group as a recognizable force as the Union County chapter of the League of Municipalities, conducted their meetings on a regular basis to discuss topics of importance of our community and the county. Affordable housing was to create a bipartisan subcommittee to discuss topics such as compliance and taking the issues out of the courts and back to the state government, as well as compliance tools. Also, the library construction bond referendum, we were asked to support a ballot question of $125 million bond to support local libraries' expansion and equipment purchases. This will be a dollar-to-dollar match. The interest arbitration cap, this is a 2% cap on fire and police arbitration cases that will end in 2017 as the towns follow a 2% cap. Fire and police should be under the same restrictions. Pension update, the fire and police retirement system would have the right to manage their pension funds and its investment portfolio. The police and fire unions would also obtain board discretion over both the size of the membership's retirement and benefits and the contributions needed to support them. The state senate passed the legislation, but it was vetoed conditionally by the governor. The group in general fears that the issue will resurface in the future. Liquor license legislation, a liquor license in New Jersey is like a taxi medallion. There are several of them, and quite a high demand for them, especially in the restaurant industry. Nothing has been done in the past 60 years pertaining to these licenses. State lawmakers are considering many bills that would drastically overhaul regulations on how to sell beer, wine, and liquor to be sold in New Jersey. The state liquor license law are rooted in the past, the post-prohibition era based on population. These changes could help business both in downtown and redevelopment areas. I would like to thank Council President Tedesco for joining me at that meeting. Council President, do you have any further comments?
I do not, Mayor, but thank you for inviting me. It was a positive meeting and a lot of different topics were discussed, as you mentioned, very thoroughly.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, at this point in the meeting, I'd like to go to the executive session. Ms. Ariema, please.
Resolution 17153A. Closed session resolution authorizing executive session for the purpose of discussing potential litigation concerning water infiltration at the Michael R. Piccoli Recreation Building at the Garden Sports and Recreation Complex in matters attorney-client privilege relating to the above and in accordance with NJSA 10-4 closed session meetings open to the public, excluding the public, subject to the matter where it's necessary for the mayor and council of the Borough of Garden to conduct an executive session closed to the public in order to discuss the above listed matter. Now therefore be resolved that the council of the Borough of Garden hereby moves to go into executive session in accordance with the provision of the Open Public Meetings Act for the purpose of discussing the subject stated above, and be further resolved that the matters discussed in and the minutes of the closed session shall be disclosed to the public when the reason for confidentiality no longer exists.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Ariema.
Councilman Fitzgerald. Aye. Councilman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
Council President Tedesco.
Aye.
Mr. Renata, I assume we're going to take action.
I don't think
Action,
so.
action happens out here, but no, there's no action on this.
Okay, no action will be taken.
But if it was, it hasn't happened. The
Shall we,
regular
go
meeting, not
back to
the
the-
workshop.
Thank you. And hopefully it'll be a short executive
Be very,
session.
very quick.
That's what they all say.
All right, hold that.
I didn't notice that.
Oh, Miles.
Someday.
Worst example you can.
Am I ready?
Not yet,
Yeah.
still workshop.
We're only halfway through.
Sorry.
Comments and matters for discussion from members of the council. Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Nothing tonight, ma'am.
Thank you. Councilman Kukrow.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Mr. Renata, we were introducing the planning board, the fees, development fees.
Yes.
So we would like to move forward on that if that's possible.
I have a question. Does it, maybe, I don't know whether anybody was at the meeting and could tell me this.
We do have the chairman in the audience.
Good.
That's true.
So,
Chairman of that committee.
okay. Does anybody have the sheet? Am I the only one that
I have
has
it.
the order?
Someone
So,
was kind enough to
Yeah.
publish for us.
just a, I mean, I sort of hate to stick my 2 cents in, but I might as well ask anyway. On the second page,
Okay.
A, variance for relief is a D variance, and number 2, well, let's look at the 2 of them. Number 1 is first of all, for anybody who doesn't know, a D variance is what used to be called a use variance. Now it can be for a use that's not permitted in a zone, or something that's more than 10% higher than the permitted height in the zone. Variance for a conditional use where one of the conditions isn't met, something with greater density. But in any event, it's a D variance. So for 1 or 2 family residential use, the fee is $1,000. So that would be if you wanted to put either a 1 or 2 family residence in a place where it's not zoned. And for all other uses, which would include building an office building, a warehouse, an apartment building, anything, it's $500. Why?
I copied it from the, what was existing. I don't think that one, if it's.
Well, yeah, what apparently is existing, except if we're changing some of them, it seems to me that that would be one that ought to be changed unless it was discussed where there's some reason why not.
We didn't feel at the time that that one should have went up, so we just left that one the way it was. But if you would like to revisit that.
I'm just suggesting that if you're charging $1,000 for one or two family residential use, why would you charge $500 for a retail or a commercial use or a multifamily or a warehouse or?
So,
So, I mean,
Mr. Renaud brings up a good point,
Yeah.
and it's one that, it wasn't recommended by the planning board, but we have the ability to change that. So if the 5 of us want to move forward with that, we can.
I mean,
I
I'd
mean,
like to
that's how I
change that.
feel.
We didn't, that one wasn't adjusted, so we didn't
Right.
even address it after we were
Correct.
all the rest of them.
But, I mean, that, Mr. Renaud, your explanation there makes sense to me, the
Yeah.
reasoning, that it should at least mirror it.
The $1,000
Are we
and the
suggesting that
1,000
both
should
be
be.
1,000, or we suggesting that both be 500?
That's what I
Well,
I would say at least 1,000.
I would think both would be 1,000.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be
Because-
500?
The first one wouldn't be 500 because, well, first of all, the planning board didn't see a need for that to go down.
Because
So-
we didn't want this to affect regular residential homes.
Well, you're not,
That one
for the most part, Eileen, you're not, this is not somebody who has a house that's doing something to it. This would be somebody who's building
Building
a
it.
house, and primarily, I can't think, the only occasion that you would have the one family would be involved would be if, for example, somebody proposed building a one-family residence in a commercial zone. So that's not gonna happen
Isn't that
very
already-
often.
Not allowed?
Well,
According
it's
to
not,
our-
that's why you'd be getting a D variance for it. So that's why I say that's unlikely to occur. So the only other one would be somebody proposing to construct or expand a two-family or convert to a two-family residence in a one-family zone. So that's what that applies to. So you're gonna have, it's gonna be a developer who's gonna come in and propose in an area, for example, it may be zoned for one family, but there's a number of two families in the neighborhood presumably, so they're gonna come in and try to get a variance for a two-family, so.
And if I may, Mr. Bellagio, you have something?
What that also would be for, say, if you had a lot that was zoned for manufacturing, and it was not a redevelopment area, they can come before the zoning board for a use variance. And if they wanted to build something with, that has 50 apartments in it, it would be 500, and then 75 for each additional unit.
But that's not even
That's how
allowed,
they
is it?
would,
That's why they would be getting a
Again,
variance.
you'd be asking for a D variance.
Yeah,
Yeah, they-
that would be
sometimes
a
they give those
D
D
variance.
variances out like it's candy. So I'm just trying to, you know, I
But
mean,
this is just to talk about.
All I'm
the fees
suggesting
out
is
of
that
it.
there's no reason that I can see why there should be a twofold discrepancy between those two items, 1 and 2. So I would either,
I agree.
I would either lower 1 or increase 2.
Mhm. I'm for
Yeah, I
increasing
mean,
too,
there's
based
no
on
reason to-
what we've heard.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, then the other comment I had,
Well, how does everybody feel about
I
that?
would rather decrease it.
But that's
These are
putting
the
a
variance
one or two
will
family,
compare-
These aren't residents.
These are people, these are
One or two
developers.
family.
not
They're just
existing.
developers, they build the developer comes in and builds a house and then sells it. People don't,
right,
it's very uncommon for people to buy a land on North or South Avenue and build a house. Who would do that? And
you're looking at
every
the
chance-
variances for residents for the most part, the people that are zoned for the use that they have.
Right.
That's gonna be B1, which is $75. That's not $1,000, that's
Okay.
$75.
Okay,
Are we okay with going to 1,000?
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilman Sharp? I
No
heard, I
opinion.
see you're quiet over there.
You have another suggestion,
Okay.
Mr. Lamont?
One more, which is under E, subdivision review. Under number 1, two-lot minor subdivision. there's a preliminary fee which is being increased to $1,200, and final is not applicable. The reason for that is because a minor subdivision is a one-step process.
Okay, good.
However, major subdivisions is a two-step process. Now, frequently, people apply for preliminary and final at the same time, but sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes they can't do everything, and then they have to come back for their final approval. And therefore, I don't know why you would have no fee for final approval. I would have a final approval fee of some kind on major subdivisions. And, well, I would just have a fee of some kind, because either they're going to come back and you'll have to have a whole application and hear a whole case and bring in your professionals and so forth and get no fee, or if they do it together, you can collect both fees at the same time if you're doing preliminary and final. So my suggestion would be that there be some fee for final approval.
Well, shouldn't it match the preliminary approval?
No, it doesn't have to, because you don't even have to have a public hearing. You just basically have to have, basically what final approval is you have approved on a preliminary basis, and you have a number of conditions that have to be satisfied. So, for example, they have to prepare a Mylar map for a major subdivision and have it prepared and ready to be recorded. You may require monuments. If, for example, like when Liberty Court was constructed, I was going to say not that long ago, it's probably 30
80s.
years ago. So Liberty Court was constructed, for example, they had to build a road, so they had to post a bond, so you had to make sure that the bond's posted. So all of those things have to take place, and then, and actually where Kathy lives too, that was the same deal.
She's smiling.
Right. So, so on all of those, you have a preliminary and then a final process. So I would have some fee. I don't think it has to be $1,500. I mean, it could be $300, $500, something in there, but it seems to me there should be some fee.
It wasn't there, we didn't.
I mean, it sounds like a reasonable.
Right, you're having a meeting for it.
Hearing what this is.
We're using resources to do that
Yeah.
function, right? So
Right.
if we're using resources, then it should be charged.
Correct.
What about 350?
No, that's not nothing.
500?
500?
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Although actually, it can be half the amount.
That's not good reading.
That thought crossed my mind too.
Well, I mean, you know, it
No,
can be
it's
half
the
the
committee,
amount.
I'm amenable.
I think 500 is okay.
I mean, Mr. Arnott, you have planning and zoning board experience.
What's your
At first you said 300, 500.
I said 300 to 500. I
Is
would have no
750
problem
getting a
with
little out of
500. I think 750 might be a little excessive, only because you don't have to have a public hearing. Because I said, a public
With
hearing
no-
in the sense that you're going to have notice, although I don't even remember, our ordinance may require it, but it's a much more truncated application. It's simply, was this done, was this done, was this done, was this done? So it's more of a checklist kind of thing.
I think
All
it's
right,
important to
500.
have the hours that we take some of these professionals on estimate to go over some of the applications, as that can help you set what the fee schedule should be looking like.
Well, they should be, they should be, well, I don't know that the attorney is. The engineer and planner, I know, charges by the escrow, so they get, there's, in addition to these fees, there are escrow fees, so they're compensated.
There's other
So
professional work.
would there be
Yeah,
the attorney by having the attorney at the meeting, is this a separate meeting than a typical planning or zoning board meeting, or it's regular order of business?
When I
Because
read
I
the
believe our-
planning board minutes, it looks to me like most of the time there's more than one application. So it would seem to me that you're not we don't have to pay the attorney the entire fee with one
Right.
application.
Because we're
So-
paying per meeting now to the
Right.
planning board attorney.
Right.
So, and that's less than 500 with.
Yeah.
Kathy, was there
No.
any discussion?
More? How much?
8.25.
750 a meeting?
8.25.
Yeah.
8.25 a meeting.
Yes.
Right.
Well, then we should make it 8.25.
Well, this is,
But
that's not,
it was just said that there
I'm
are
not saying,
multiple.
this is, you get my thought process.
Kathy, was there any discussion at your planning board meeting in regards to the final fee or? as to-
No, we did not look at any, we basically did not look at any fees that weren't,
Already.
that was not a fee.
Okay.
We felt that the past boards, they didn't want to charge. We didn't feel that, we felt that we weren't going to do that. But, you know, like I said, if you guys decide to do it, that's, that's your right.
Well,
But we're
with
using-
with
And
what,
the fees don't go into, these fees are revenue, for the town. They don't go into escrow, they don't,
Mhm.
so it's up to you guys.
yeah, well, they're actually not so much revenue as they are defraying the cost of
Defraying the
revenue.
cost,
That's
yeah.
right. That's a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
It's deferring the
Right,
cost.
so
Deferring
that's
the
why
cost.
850,
We're not a
I
company.
mean, 825 a meeting doesn't
Right.
equal 825 here, because they're
Right.
hearing often multiple cases at a meeting. So, Mr. Renaud does work for other towns with their planning board, zoning board, so when he suggests 300 to 500, I'm good with 500.
I'm fine with 500 as well.
Just leave it there.
Okay, we have a consensus.
All right, that's all I have. Other than that, it looks fine to me.
Mr. Renaud, does anybody have this in Word?
I-
Can you send it to Mr. Renaud?
Ms. Ariema, when I emailed
Send
it to
it
you
to me
today,
and-
it was in Word. Wasn't it in Word when I
No,
sent it
I
to you?
think it's PDF.
Oh,
Pretty sure it's PDF. Not positive though.
okay,
I think, it might be.
I can't remember.
But yeah, you can forward it down, it makes it easier. Appreciate it.
Yep.
That was the only thing, Mr. Renaud?
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
There you go. Councilman Lazaro?
Yes, Mayor, I just wanted to report to the council and mayor and that Councilman Tedisco and I, we went to the DPW and we toured the facilities and the equipment. This was in regards to our finance committee meeting where we were trying to decide what capital improvement plan that we were going to go forward with. And of course, we were really excited about some of the newer equipment that they had and that they were able to show us. Of course, there are certainly needs in order to keep the efficiency and the operations of the DPW. So, of course, we're happy to see kind of some of the stuff that they're doing, but also obviously there are clearly areas in need of improvement. So it kind of helped us to gauge where we want to spend our money on improvements in the DPW, and of course that, hopefully as we move again, that we can come up with a recommendation for the council, so we'll certainly keep you posted.
You guys look at the area, covering it and whatnot, and shelter-wise,
We did, we looked, and I have to continue to look into the actual cost of the building structure that I haven't gotten to yet, but we did look at, we kind of figured somewhere in the range of 5 to 6 spots that you would need to house whatever extra you would need for that, so.
Right. Mayor, if I could just add to that too.
please.
So what the councilman means by that is, right now, a large number of the DPW equipment is stored under something, whether in their main garage or in the building basically off to the right-hand side there. So it would be around 6 vehicles are not stored inside at any given point in time. It depends on the season, which trucks are out, obviously.
They
They
rotate.
rotate when they feel it's most effective for them. But also, I have in the police report later about some shelter being done to cover their vehicles, because there are some police vehicles in our DPW yard right now. So when you go there, there's quite a bit of different things. There's the police vehicles, there's, I think, 3 or 4 dumpsters, there's a building which houses our holiday light decorations and things of that nature. So there's a lot of space back there, but there are quite a bit of things, right,
There's a lot of
in that space too, so. I took pictures too, Councilman, so we can look at them at the finance meeting we'll have soon.
Very good. Anything else, Councilor?
That's it, thank you, Mayor.
Does anyone have a report on behalf of Councilman Pescatelli? None. Councilman Sarno?
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Council President Tedesco?
Thanks, Mayor. I have a bit of a lengthier workshop report for the Finance Committee, just so that hopefully, if we want to have discussion about these topics, we do it now in workshop rather than later when it's really just a report, a couple comments, and then you move on. So basically, we did meet as a committee on August 9th. It was a very, very productive meeting about capital planning, and we looked at requests made by department heads as well as other items that have been brought to our attention, like those ideas shared at the last council meeting about DPW storage and even tablets for the council. We discussed projects on the horizon, such as the necessary repair to the roof of the firehouse, which is coming down the pike, the potential revamping of Hartman Park once we see the results of our grant submission to Union County. We all left the meeting with to-do lists so that we can investigate long-term planning options, such as how much to recommend funding road projects on a year-to-year basis, as we touched on earlier tonight. There were a couple of pressing matters that we discussed as well that we really want to focus this discussion on this evening, and we invite the rest of the council to share their thoughts. The Finance Committee did unanimously agree to move forward with them, but of course, we're not a council of three, we're just a committee of three, so we want to hear what the others have to say. The police chief has come to us with a request for $10,000 to update the records and property area within the police department so that evidence and other items such as files can be stored more efficiently. Right now, the borough pays a monthly rental space fee off-site of $190 per month, which is a little over $2,000 per year. By making this improvement within our PD headquarters, the borough won't have to pay for this off-site storage, so effectively it will pay for itself in about 4 years or so. So that was a request that we, as a committee, thought would be great to grant. Also, we presently have a vacancy in the position of accounting/tax clerk, as everyone up here knows, and this office needs to have that vacancy addressed. So we did investigate options in order to have 2 part-time employees instead of 1 full-time employee as we had. And I know this had been a discussion previously, and there was sentiment from many of the council members, including myself, where we really lean towards having 2 part-time employees, but the main question was, where do you put everybody? Because our building is somewhat busting at the seams here, to say the least. So basically, in order to go with 2 part-time employees, that would mean minor construction would have to take place in the planning board office to make enough room, which is estimated at $20,000. I circulated information to the council on the salaries and benefits comparison of having 2 part-time employees versus 1 full-time employee, which did show, as I hope everybody got to take a look at it, that 2 part-time employees actually would be $2,000 less per year at a minimum, depending on the benefit package required. Very important to point out, too, is the fact that the borough would actually be getting 15 more hours of work per week with 2 part-timers than it would with just 1 full-time employee. Also, when we broke this out per hour, 2 part-time employees combined work out to be $9 less per hour than 1 full-time employee. In line with the recommendation of the borough CFO, the Finance Committee agrees that 2 part-time employees is the most efficient option. Additionally, another positive is this proposal would mean the duties of records management would be included in these 2 positions, and we all do know that records management in the borough is an issue that we've been trying to tackle for the past couple of years now. We've made some gains in that department, but there's still a long road ahead. So basically, considering that the roof of the firehouse, which is also where the senior citizens meet, that needs to be addressed. Although a grant from Union County is getting applied to that project, there will still be a cost to the borough. Lumping that in with the request made by the police chief and this minor revamp of Borough Hall to accommodate 2 part-time employees. That's the direction we're thinking of taking. So I just wanted to talk about it now. If anybody has any questions, I think our committee, Ms. Ariane, would be happy to answer. We really looked into it. So.
Are the 2 part-time employees employed the same days, same hours? They're both like 2 combined instead of 1? Or is it different hours?
They're 25 hours each at this point. That's what we're looking at, which would be sort of like our maximum.
I think it's even better say you could say up to
25, you know, I think it's always important to put that kind of
All right.
out there. And it provides flexibility for the office over here.
So you don't need two people in there at the same time to warrant the money for the construction?
Actually, we do need two people in at the same time, that's why we need to, they'll overlap, there's no question about it. We don't work 50 hours a week, so.
Well, that's
obviously-
why I'm asking, I didn't, you know, I didn't know whether they were
No,
gonna.
we need to, the plan is to move Sandy across the hall, because she, you know, she's a finance officer, and we're gonna put her across the hall with the two new people in the office as it is.
On the left-hand
A
side.
little extra desk in there for Adele for when she comes in, and we're gonna fill it with file cabinets, and we're gonna take our records and purge them into, by address, because we have them all over the place, and by all different ways of sorting, so the plan is that these two employees will start working immediately, they need to start working immediately, because they're the people that are gonna take that room apart, not me, I don't have time for that. They have to take everything in there, out, and all the planning, like, well, half the planning board records and half the construction records are in a storage unit down the street. So I get over requests, I don't know what's down there. I have no idea. And there's no way to go in there and search for them. I have kids, I hired college kids, they're almost finished sorting that stuff, but they didn't get to finish the job, so these new people have to finish the job, just sorting it. Then I have to see the volume, whether or not I can put it in file cabinets or not. But at least if it's sorted and I have it on the list, and I go request, I can just look on the list, and then I gotta go down there still and get it, which is far better than the situation I'm in now. But, and then in my office, there's records stored in all different places, so the idea is to condense everything, so it's one spot. These new employees will have to do that. And I wanna put the planning and zoning records in there too, because I get requests for those. There's no database, there's no way to know. And unless it doesn't remember an applicant,
You shouldn't be expected to remember all that stuff anyway.
Right,
I mean,
and
all these
there's
things,
no way to search for it, is my point.
I mean, all these things that, your recommendations are things that I agree with. Of course, the $20,000 construction cost, I don't want to pay for that.
It's not just construction,
Mhm.
it's buying equipment.
Right.
We need to get file cabinets.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
Lots
did
and
you
lots
see
of
that?
file cabinets, we need.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Desks,
it's the construction,
Yes.
relocation of files, furniture,
Computers,
filing cabinets, computers.
phones, you
New
know,
copy machine
office
in there.
equipment. We need to set up a whole office over there, so, but the main thing is we're gonna get those dentist office file cabinets that move in the walls, you know, I didn't see them yet. Sandy and I are gonna go to, take a run down to Atlantic City in November and then leave, you know, go and look at them, because we haven't seen them, so we need to see what they do, but we need to see if we can find something that is gonna work for us. But that's still down the road. The first thing in this process is you approving those two employees, you have to hire them first. They have to start to break the stuff down and clean out all the stuff and get it organized. Then, in the same time, we'll look at the construction and get that part going.
Right.
Somebody's gotta dismantle that office. Anybody ever go in there? See
I
that
certainly have.
volume of paper in there?
And Councilman Kukrow, I can totally anticipate this question from you tonight, because, I mean, does anybody really want to spend $20,000 to do this minor revamp or whatever you want to call it? Not really, but it's spending smarter, because, for example, right now, there's two issues. One is when Ms. Ariema has one of these requests, which are quite frequent, at least one a week, I would say, when I talk to you.
No,
or
no,
more.
at least one a day.
One a day. I mean, sometimes they could take you 2-3 hours.
Yes.
And if you think about the fact that we have our borough administrator clerk spending that kind of time on one request, that to me does not spell efficiency whatsoever. The second thing is, I know from sitting up here, records management has been something she's brought to our attention on the finance committee since 2011, 2012. And we've tackled it $5,000 here, there in the budget, scanning some documents when it can be done. But it's a major undertaking to the tune of like $100,000. So by doing this, it really helps to substantially start to alleviate that problem. And if we let that problem go, we'll just continue inefficiencies and
And the idea is,
really
the best thing would
struggle.
be is to have all our records, you know, by a company, taken, sorted, scanned, and made into PDFs. But that is so god-awful expensive. Tara and Cranford told me that she just can't do it, it's too much money, so she's struggling the same way I am, but she has a lot more going on over there that I don't have. She has a lot more software, she has a lot more efficiency, and plus our construction department's all computerized, so they just hit a button.
Or are they just storing it on the cloud? I mean, you don't need paper PDFs.
But you're talking about stuff that was, it's paper now, it has to be created into
Right.
PDF, it doesn't actually get there, you know,
Right.
and so, I don't know about our volume, like, I think it would cost a real lot of money to scan it all, but maybe, someday down the road you wanna do that. It's now, you gotta find a place for it and organize it, and that's step one. Even if you wanna scan it, you have to organize it first. Pay somebody to organize it, that costs so much money.
So it's better to do it in steps, essentially, than to say, we're gonna hire a company, come in for $100,000 and figure our
I
stuff out.
don't
I mean,
even think $300,000.
probably because the amount of knowledge you need, they probably would still need your time.
Yes.
This is a better way of doing it.
Well, I definitely don't want to
Yeah.
spend $300,000 on anything.
No.
So, I mean, like I said, I agree with the part-timers without a doubt.
Mhm.
I agree with the $10,000 for the police department. I just don't want to spend $20,000 on the other thing, but,
Yeah.
obviously.
They
No,
can-
let me
Yeah.
just say, it's just an estimate, because I really don't know.
All right, then maybe we can get it cheaper.
Yeah, I really don't
Okay.
know what I'm
Those
dealing with
parts.
equipment-wise. That's why I'm gonna run down to Atlantic City in November, because by the time these people I hired get that room cleaned out, I'll be ready to start buying stuff. So,
All right, well, these are
as
all
much as
things
I
that are
discussed,
good for the
Stephanie
town,
hate the
so.
idea,
Right,
she and I are gonna run down there so we can look at,
I think
look
the
at what
chief
we're
wants
buying
to say
before we
something
buy
to
it.
there.
No, what we're
And
buying.
obviously, the roof on the fire department's got to be done, because we don't want the seniors having umbrellas inside the thing.
He has some knowledge.
Chief,
Would you like to?
Yeah, Councilman, just to keep in mind too, one of our main goals is to get my records and records for the borough administrator back from storage. I'm planning on recouping that 10,000 within the next 4 to 5 years. Might be a little bit longer, but if we're not paying for storage annually, we're gonna get that money back that you're investing in the projects
I've been
now.
paying for storage for over 10
Yeah.
years.
Well, that's insanity.
So there's your $20,000, way
Right.
in then some.
And I also think Councilman Disco's point about efficiency is really important too. I mean, I really don't think that's a good use of your time, that you have to search for files for 2 or 3 hours when there's lots of other business that need.
A lot of times, if they don't identify the record, I have to deny it, and if it's a corporation or somebody looking for it to make money, but when it's people, I can't help them, and that really, that's a struggle for me, and I try to help them, and that's where I run through 2 or 3 hours.
Right, so
I need
it's,
to help them.
it's about efficiency, but it really all trickles back to the resident
Yeah.
Yes.
and helping them.
Yes.
Rather than saying, I searched for 2 hours, but I still have no luck. So,
Can I just ask the chief?
Sure.
What we're talking about with that 10,000 for your files, is this a similar situation?
Similar. I don't have as much of a construction issue as they do, but I do have to reconfigure my room so I can put in the files that we're talking about. We're going to get about 3 times more files in the same wall space if we convert to these file systems that we're talking about that you see in the doctor's office. So that's where the investment's coming. We got to get all of that file that we have just stored up in storage, and we still have to put it in the same space that we have now. And so there are some issues with construction. That's where the 10,000 is going to be for construction, to renovate the room, to put in new file systems. And for my property room is inadequate for the amount of evidence of property we have right now. Just to clarify, I just want to make sure everybody knows this. Our property and evidence is stored in-house. It has to be, so none of that's at storage right now. But we're bursting at the seams. So we need to make a new system of storing it, and that's where the investment's going to have to come in.
Thank you.
What about Cranford? Does Cranford have any? Cranford has our stuff down there too.
No, I've got all my
You got
old
all-
stuff
you
back,
got
I think
everything
from
back?
2015, I don't remember the date, I'm sorry, maybe 2012, 13, back, I took back from them.
You took back everything that was Garland's back from Cranford?
Yeah, I took it all back.
Okay, all right, so
Because,
this includes everything that was in Cranford, so we'll have all of our files.
right,
I
and I
got
have
one
some
more.
real old stuff in another spot, really old stuff that I didn't get to, there's just stuff everywhere, it's everywhere. I mean, I can point to it and tell you where it all is, but it needs to be in one place. So if I need to find something for 347 Hazel Avenue, boom, go to one place. There it is, everything that was ever created, that I have, that exists, is there. So, one thing is, easy, it makes it fast and easy, and I don't have to deny people, because I don't know where it is. And I can't, if you guys saw that record, that storage room, you would say, there's no physical way to search for records.
Well, then there should be no reason for that. We're up here to serve the people, and the people have to come first. So I don't like spending money, but some things you just have to spend.
But if once these 2 people that we hire, they're gonna be cross-trained on everything. There isn't anything that they won't be able to do eventually that They can do dog licensing, to collecting taxes, to the agenda, to write a resolution. They're gonna learn everything.
Well, you want everything being done by those people, because you'll want to hire a specialty, I mean, you have separate people for
Well, we
that's all
just want to make
experts.
sure that there's going to be somebody who knows what to do, in case I'm in that Powerball farm, you know. we need that
You want to stand in line.
On that note,
Okay.
I'd like to personally thank the Finance Committee, job well done, looking at the global picture and our future. And I know I don't vote, but I would support all three initiatives.
I just want to thank you for, you know, being considerate and listening to us, and, you know, I'm excited to go forward with the project, and I'm excited for you guys to see the end result and the efficiency that we're going to produce from it. Your support means a real lot to us. Me and Sandy are struggling, we need your support, so it's going to be a big endeavor for us. It's going to take a lot out of us, but at the end, we're going to have something really, I've accomplished a lot, and a lot to show you, and a lot to be proud of.
And I know you'll get it cheaper too, I just had.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
most
so.
confident in you.
I think so. I don't have no idea what I'm dealing with, you know? None.
Well, the only thing I was gonna say, my support hasn't changed from a year ago, so I'm excited.
Good.
Thank you very much.
And Ms. Arian, I want to thank you and Ms. Bruns as well, because I know that it will be a lot more work for you in the short term, but it will pay off in the long term.
Yeah.
And also, you know, status quo can be easier sometimes, but I do appreciate you going the extra step to make this done, because it will be better in the long term.
It's real fulfilling when you find something that a resident is looking for, and then they can finally close on a house, or, you know, buy a house, because they need that, see when that tank was removed, and you find that record. It's really, really fulfilling. So, that, you know, that's the goal, and I want to be able to give people what they need.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, everyone. Public comment, anyone in the audience who wishes to address the mayor and council, please step to the microphone, state your full name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Mr. Patterson.
Let's say other residents.
You have the whole floor.
There's 3 other residents on that side of the dais.
Good evening, Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, the council, Bruce Patterson, 325 Willow Avenue. Just a couple items. I mean, don't forget we have possibly infrastructure granting every year, so, or whatever the construction is, maybe you can do something on that. And then the archives, I mean, I've brought this up before, like, we should entreat the county to maybe, you know, create some kind of granting process for archives, because all the towns face these problems. So, you know, keep those 2 items in mind. Clint Dixon now is shared with Scotch Plains. We're talking about equipment. Maybe we can now get equipment from Scotch Plains if we need it. So that's something else to look into, whoever's committee that is. And the last, and I've talked on Mayor Saturday to the mayor and Councilman Sarno about this, and it's Roselle. And I've explained that Roselle has this mind and body complex that's going to be built. A lot of people are coming down to the freeholder meetings. One meeting was 150 people, and another meeting was 100 people, and they were in opposition of this only because the UCIA is taking control of the construction of this project. It's a $59 million project, and they're doing that to circumvent the bonding capacity of the town. Roselle has $48 million bonding capacity. I think they're at 38 million now, so they have like a 10 million cushion, yet this is a $59 million project, so the UCIA is now circumventing to build this big project, and the UCIA is going to own it, and then they're going to lease it back to Roselle, and numbers are like $500 to $600 as a tax increase for that. And the town, and I don't know if I said this before, but the town is about 25%, the homes are 25% underwater, abandoned, or foreclosed. And numbers of foreclosures, like 1,400 to 1,500 are foreclosed, and abandoned is like 400 houses. Roselle is in dire straits. The people are crying that they can't afford this. The county and the UCIA is kind of like going around the back door, doing this to force it on Roselle. Even the mayor doesn't want it. A gentleman sent a letter to all the towns saying that the county is going to guarantee the bond, and if Roselle defaults, that it'll be the responsibility of the rest of us to be paying off this mind and body complex for Roselle. Chair Bergen sent a letter recently saying, oh, well, that's not true. But if the county guarantees a bond, bottom line is, the county's guaranteeing the bond, default, we pay for it, bottom line. So I don't know what Bergen is saying, you know.
What's the mind and body complex, Mary?
Mind and Body Complex is a high school and a recreation and library complex. It's two large buildings, and it's gonna have a pool and a library, and then the high school with all its
High
records.
school?
Yeah, high school.
A county high school? Or
No, this is a high school for Roselle.
Oh.
Roselle has an existing high school, but I guess it's old. So anyway, so major cost impact is coming down the pike. Roselle is in dire straits. I mean, you know, leading up to this possible default, and I'm not saying it will default, but I mean, it just looks financially dire straits, and that the people are actually gonna be in serious, more dire pain, as they lead up to trying to afford this complex that they don't want, that is being forced down throats by the county and the UCIA. Suggestions were made at the freeholder meeting by the residents, you know, something smaller, maybe the existing library, maybe have an addition put on it instead of a brand new library. Maybe that's where that 100 million bond comes in that somebody mentioned at the beginning.
across the state.
Yeah, across the street. Okay, well, maybe, you know,
A portion of that.
yeah, a portion of that, and hopefully maybe we get a piece of the action, you know, somehow it may be directed to other towns that need it, and we get nothing, we're paying for it. So, anyway, but that's Roselle. I think what the mayor and council should be doing is contacting the freeholders to find out what this county guarantee means, and especially if Roselle defaults. I mean, you know, we're talking about our constituents here, and we're concerned that we're gonna end up paying for this. And we really shouldn't be because it's being used by Roselle. I mean, you know, not to say we're greedy or something, but, you know, I don't mind helping people, but in this project, we're looking at a serious problem up front. And they're just heading quickly down the pike, and it doesn't look good, and something's gotta be done. You have that mayor meeting that you're saying possibly is quarterly. I mean, that's something that, you know, the mayor should put their foot down and say, what the heck's going on?
Spoken about very quickly at our table, so it's gonna be an issue at the next meeting.
Yeah, okay, and I appreciate it, so keep that in mind, that something is not right here, you know, and of course, the rest of us are gonna get hurt. When the county does something, we always get hurt, so, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Moving on to a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Should we continue on, council?
Yes.
All rise for a moment of silence and salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice of this meeting was provided to the Westfield Leader, advertised on January 5th, 2017. The notification was sent to the Star Ledger, promptly posted on the municipal bulletin board, filed in the office of the municipal clerk, informing the public time, place according to the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Law, Chapter 231, PL 1975. Roll call, Ms. Ariella.
Mayor Lombardo.
Here.
Councilman Blumenstock.
Here.
Councilman Kukrow.
Here.
Councilman Lazaro.
Here.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Excused.
Councilman Sarno.
Here.
And Council President Disco.
Here.
Ms. Ariella, minutes.
Regular workshop minutes of the Mayor and Council held on August 8, 2017.
Have a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Ariella, communications.
New Jersey State League of Municipalities.
Received. Sorry.
Mayor's Advisory.
Receive and file.
Roy Valley Sewer Authority, meeting notice.
Receive and file.
Bruce Patterson letter to council and planning board.
Receive and file. Ordinance, introduction. Ms. Ariella, please read ordinance 17-17 by title only.
Yes, Mayor, in ordinance to amend Chapter 34 Police Department of the Code of the Borough of Borough to enact Article 9, parking enforcement officers to create the position of parking enforcement officer and to prescribe duties and regulations pertaining to same.
May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 17-17?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please. Ms. Ariella?
Can we have discussion briefly?
No.
You have discussion on a public hearing.
Oh, sorry. I'll save my comment for the end of the meeting. It's okay. I meant to say it in workshop, forgot.
Okay, so Councilwoman Blumenstock?
Aye.
Councilman Kukrow?
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro?
Aye.
Councilman Sarno?
Aye.
And Council President Tedesco?
Aye.
Ms. Ariema, please ordinance 17-18 by title only.
Yes, Mayor, an ordinance supplementing chapter 34 of the Code of the Borough of Garwood entitled Police Department, establishing promotion procedures for the rank of captain, lieutenant, and sergeant.
I have a motion to introduce ordinance 17-18.
So moved?
I'll second that.
Roll call, Ms. Ariema.
Councilwoman Blumenstock?
Aye.
Councilman Kukrow?
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro?
Aye.
Councilman Sarno?
Aye.
And Council President Tedesco?
Aye.
Thank you. Council standing committee reports and other reports. Police, Councilman Petrozelli.
I have his report tonight.
Thank you, Council President.
Here's the police report. School is around the corner, so in preparation for the coming school year, the police department has increased radar posts on the side streets where speed violations routinely occur. There will be an increased effort to enforce all motor vehicle laws during the peak hours during drop-off and pickup times at the school. All motorists are encouraged to slow down and drive carefully. In addition to enforcement efforts, the police department has purchased and is expecting delivery of 3 radar display signs and 4 LED stop signs, which will be installed in and around our most hazardous intersections to further increase safety. The project is expected to be completed by the beginning of October. The police department has taken ownership of a maintenance enclosure through the military surplus program. The enclosure is large enough to cover 3 vehicles and will be located at the DPW yard to protect vehicles when they are not in service. The market value of this enclosure is $16,000, but comes to us at no cost to the borough. The police department is expanding its footprint on social media. One of our newest officers, Officer Camporielli, has taken the initiative and created Facebook and Instagram accounts to complement our presence on Twitter and Nixle. Please check us out if you have not done so already. And that's all for my report.
Thank you, Council President. Public Health, Councilman Kukrow.
No report, Mayor. Our next meeting is in September.
Thank you. Streets and Roads Ecology, Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Just a quick report tonight, Mayor.
Okay.
The DPW is currently working on painting road markings, stop lines, yellow lines, etc. And the goal is to have that done before school starts. Also, just an update, the O2 truck that broke down is still in the shop. They're still trying to determine the cause of the breakdown, and I'll report back to council when I know more. That's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Fire, Councilman Sarno.
No report.
Thank you. Finance, Council President Tedesco.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Buildings and Grounds, Councilman Lazaro.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a brief update on the rec center. We're in the final phases of preparing the plans and specs for fixing the structural damage caused by the water infiltration at the rec complex. And the document for bidding should ideally go out by the next meeting. And that's all for my report.
Thank you, sir. Laws and License, Councilman Kukrow.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Recreation report from Council President, Councilman Petrozelli.
Yes, I have the report for him.
Thank you.
No, I think you have a report though, Eileen. Hold on.
What?
You do have a report.
You have to stand corrected.
Oh, wait. Yeah, I do.
That
Never mind.
fancy envelope you have.
It might be, you have it.
Why do you know you like that? I'm sorry, I do have a
okay.
report. Laws and license.
We'll digress back to laws and license.
All right, there are 4 applications for raffle licenses. The Laws and License Committee recommends the following. The committee recommends the adoption of resolution number 17-163 for the application of an off-premise 50/50 raffle to be held on October 13, 2017, to be held at the Westwood, 438 North Avenue, Garwood, from 6 to 11. Is hereby granted to Union County College of Cranford pursuant to application number RA number 1130. The committee also recommends the adoption of resolution number 17-165 for the applications of an on-premise 50/50 raffle, an off-premise merchandise raffle, and an on-premise merchandise raffle to be held on November 12, 2017, to be held at the Westwood, 438 North Avenue, Garwood, New Jersey, from 10 to 3, is hereby granted to Best Friend Dog and Animal Adoption of Cranford, pursuant to application number RA number 1131, RA number 1132, and RA number 1133. That's all for my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Recreation report. Council President, do you have one on behalf?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Hopefully you won't mind me using my cell phone since the rec chairman texted it to me.
Just don't be.
Okay, you got it. All right, so Summer Rec had 150 registered children, and they average about 100 attendees daily, which is terrific. They wanted to say a special thank you to Dana Parkhill for doing a wonderful job as the Recreation Summer Director, and they also wanted to thank the full staff that they had. The fall rental for the turf field was approved for the schedule last night at the rec meeting. Final approval will take place when the insurance is fully approved. Westfield Soccer Club, B Elite Soccer Club, Clark Soccer Club, and Lincoln School Soccer and Field Hockey will once again be scheduled for fall use. Checks for over $12,000 have been handed into the borough for this fall's rentals. And also I'd like to add, a date has been set for the Recreation Senior Citizens event that they hold each year. It will be October 29th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Knights of Columbus. The theme and menu are to be determined. And that's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Moving on, Garwood Senior Liaison, Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Thank you, Mayor. At our meeting on August 17th, we were joined by representatives from the Liquid Church here in Garwood. They wanted to inform the seniors of their new initiative called Love Week, taking place the end of October into the first week of November. As a part of the week, they are offering their services to seniors and veterans to clean their yard, rake their leaves, and do little outdoor projects. If any seniors or veterans are in need of this help, I would be glad to connect you to the Liquid Church to get put on their list. I also informed the seniors about the roof replacement that we spoke about at the previous council meeting. As of today, we're still awaiting a quote from another company in the county co-op before making the decision whether or not to go out for bid. But it was clear that a new roof would certainly be welcomed, as during the meeting we took note of some new damage from a previous rainstorm. So also just a reminder that the seniors are sponsoring a trip to the Fiesta de San Gennaro in Staten Island on September 12th. Entertainment, food, and drink will be provided at the celebration for $55 for all Garwood residents, and that's everyone, not just seniors. I have the contact numbers if anyone is interested. Our next meeting is on September 7th. That's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Library Mayor's Representative, Councilman Lazaro.
Thank you, Mayor. September is National Library Card Sign-Up Month, and the staff of the library suggests that if you don't currently have a library card or if yours has expired, visit the library during the month of September and get up to date. Your Garwood library card can be used at our library, but of course it can also be used at other local libraries, since the Garwood Library participates in reciprocal borrowing privileges within the county. And in September, the library will resume the following programs after Labor Day: Knitting Club every Monday and Thursday at 10:30, Story Time every Wednesday at 10:30, Movie Time every Friday at 10, Adult Craft Tuesday, September 19th at 6 p.m., Lego Club Thursday, September 28th at 3 p.m., and the library will be closed on Saturdays for the rest of August. Saturday hours will begin again on Saturday, September 16th. That's all for my report.
Thank you, Councilman. School Board Liaison, Councilman Sarno.
Thank you, Mayor. Tuesday night's meeting, Mary Ann Kajetsa was appointed to the Board of Education. Ms. Kajetsa will replace Kathy Patterson. Board members interviewed applicants for the board vacancy, and the appointment was approved in executive session hours before the public meeting took place on Tuesday. Mary Ann will serve until January. It is also announced that first grade Lincoln School teacher Story Dorner has resigned. Ms. Dorner cited her commute time as a major reason for her departure. And Heather Odell will be her replacement for Cranford School System. New Jersey School Boards Association, Field Representative Gwen Thurton presented the district goals, as I discussed before the meeting, for the 2017 and 2018 school year. She discussed implementation strategies to achieve the desired goals. The Lincoln School fourth graders will be the observed group to understand the intellectual expansion professions fostered throughout the school year. The harassment, intimidation, and bullying policy was also discussed in detail, and it is important to know that the district has developed a zero-tolerance policy for bullying, investigating all student incidents as possible bullying scenarios. That's all from my report.
Thank you, Councilman. Celebration of public events and holidays, Liaison, Council President Tedesco.
Thanks, Mayor. I wanted to remind everyone to come and check out the annual Movie Under the Stars Night, which will be on September 8th at dusk with a rain date of September 17th. This year's movie night will be held at the Y at Washington School, and Sin will be the chosen movie. Banners have been put up around town as reminders, so you can check those out if you forget. Thanks to our sponsors for this great event. The sponsors are the Greater Westfield Area Chamber of Commerce and Spencer Savings Bank, and I hope to see many people there, as this is a very popular and well-attended event each year, and that's all for my report.
Thank you, Council President. Union County Air Traffic Noise Advisory Board Representative, Councilman Blumenstock.
No report tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Administrative Review Committee, Councilwoman Cougar.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Historical Committee, Council President Tedesco.
No report, but our next meeting is the 28th.
Thank you. Parking Committee, Councilman Sarno.
No report.
Thank you. Ms. Ariema, Officers Reports.
Chief of Police James H. Wright runs the report for July 2017.
So moved.
Second?
Accept it.
Absolutely. All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment, anyone in the audience who wishes to address the mayor and council, please step to the microphone and state your full name and address. Please limit your comment to 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll move on. Unfinished business, consent
Can
agenda.
I ask one of the questions on one of the consent agendas?
You should remove it.
Or should I remove it
Yes,
just for a
yes,
question?
Joe will take it.
The one I want to remove is 70-164.
Do I,
Hold on, let me just take a look at it. 164?
that's practice.
Yes, best practices. It's accepting best practices.
Okay. All right, so remove it.
I mean, to me, I think I can just ask this question, but
I would say you can answer the questions too. I mean, you pick how you want to do it.
I mean, it's just a question. It's not, I mean,
It is a question, yeah, it's not like I said, it's like
it's
one way or
not
another.
like you don't want to vote on it, right?
No,
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 Yeah.
I have a,
Yeah.
so I'm talking about question 17 specifically. Does your municipality exclude the healthcare coverage for part-time elected and appointed officials? We answered yes this year, so that is true.
Yes,
No
sir.
one is, no part-time employees are accepting it at all, even on this council.
Correct.
Very good. That's a change from the past, and that's a good thing for this borough.
Excellent.
Mayor, I'd like to add one thing. On our best practices, we scored a 92%, which is very, very good. So it's showing efficiency in our borough, and we're on the right track.
How come we only have 90%?
92.
How come we don't have 100%?
Well, did you read it? It explains it. Well, there's a couple things in there, but,
Some things are
you know,
NA, there's a couple things that are not.
Applicable.
there's,
Oh,
it's okay to have room for improvement, but 92 is a very, very good score on this. They're tough questions. Yeah.
thank you. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved, Mayor?
Second.
Discussion?
Oh, no, no,
No,
no.
sorry, no discussion. Roll call, Ms. Ariema.
Councilwoman Blumenstock. Aye. Councilman Cougar.
Yes.
Councilman Lazarus.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
And Council President Tedesco.
Aye.
Thank you. Any new business for the council?
Mayor, if I could just make a comment, I'm
Okay.
sorry that I didn't say it earlier during workshop, but I just wanted to thank Councilman Sarno for answering my questions about the parking enforcement officer, as well as the police chief. So my question really geared around training, and so looking into the future, there's a good potential that some applicants will come with experience, as Councilman Sarno informed me, but also, as the chief pointed out, any training that would be needed, either for people with coming with some experience or less experience, would be done in-house. So I was happy to hear that, to keep the cost down.
Sounds like we want to teach him the Garwood way.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Then I would like to just add one other thing that I
Yes.
didn't bring up earlier, it slipped my mind, but a while back you got a proposal from Mr. Mordillo on the tax max. Before you can award the proposal, you have to figure out how you're gonna pay for it. Are you ready to figure that out?
I spoke to Sandy about it, but she's been
Well,
out
I
this week,
Sandy
so.
spoke to me about it, and the question that was asked to Sandy was taken out of the operating budget. Well, you don't have $15,000 in the operating budget, you didn't appropriate for it. So, you can do special funding for this reval, which you're gonna have to do, which I recommend you,
We'll have to have
It can't be done next year because we don't have to do it for 2 years, correct?
Well, we've been ordered by the county to reval, and the assessor has to report to the county what we're doing. And the first thing to do is the tax maps, and she has been reporting that we're reviewing proposals, but that was one of the best practice questions as well. You have to, you can't wait, we've been ordered to rebound, you have to start with tax map. My recommendation is you put the funding in place and you go forward with this rebound.
And it's only as 14,000.
Well,
Well, right now it is, I mean, you know, he sends them off to the state, if they come back, and, you know, they're
Well,
gonna get amended.
We were talking 50, 60,000 at one point.
Sorry?
We were discussing 50, 60,000 at
Well,
one point, so.
You have quite a few names that were provided by the assessor that, for the companies that do this, you know, I can get a ballpark about what it's gonna cost us, and then we know what the tax map's gonna cost, if that's your
Okay.
cost. Put in a few other, for advertisings or whatever, things like that you might have to do, and you put the funding in place, and you gotta start this process, you can't sit on it. The state's asking you what you're doing, you're
I
supposed
know,
to
but
be
I
doing
thought that
stuff.
you couldn't do it too far in advance, because then they weren't gonna be good.
Well, you can't, but you gotta start, it takes long. They
Also-
have to- The state has to prove that. Ann Swisher told me, Westfield's got kicked back so many times for
Did she
corrections.
say how long it took?
She said that they did them and it took long, it took really long to do the tax
It's
maps.
also different town too.
Yeah.
Very small. But
Right.
we
I think
did
it will take
discuss
us
it in
longer.
our finance meeting, it wasn't that it went unhinged. I know we had
Right.
a bunch of questions for Sandy in
right,
terms of, you know, what can we do here?
right, which,
I know we had a big
What options do we
fee
have?
application come in from the developer over here. I know that went to our general fund, if I'm not mistaken. But I know we didn't appropriate for it, but if we're going to go out and do special funding for this, are we gonna couple this with other items? I think that's the
I
real,
don't think you can couple this with
It-
items.
this is a separate item?
Well, but that's what I,
It's,
Well,
And that's why it
I'm
was
not
important
the,
to
I'm not
understand
the
the answer.
finance guy, but my understanding is it's a special emergency appropriation,
It's a
and
mo-
it's not like a
it's not
multi-purpose
emergency,
bond
it's just a
ordinance. It's
special-
not-
it's
You're
a
not
spe-
bonding it for 20 years, you're bonding
5
it
years,
for.
you gotta spread that over 5
no,
years.
I remember talking to Sandy, it was a special appropriation, but it could be raised in next year's budget. So it
the
didn't
whole
have to.
thing, the whole process, not just
The whole,
Don. $20,000 in next
No,
year's
no.
budget? No, you spread it out over 5 years.
oh,
I
That's how you
think
do
the
it. Just
direction's
like
appropriate. We should get the 3 or 4 names and then ask for,
3 or 4 names of what?
other companies to do the
I have the
action.
names of the companies.
Fine,
The appraisers, I mean, the companies that are gonna do the rebounds,
yes.
I have the state mandated list of companies.
Okay.
I told you I can get an idea from them what we're dealing with. You're not hiring them yet. But you have to put, before you can do anything, you have to put the funding in place. You can't work Donald, you can't do that.
All right, do we not have the
I
funding in
think,
place
I
for
think
that amount of money?
the heart of this issue, why I think it's getting a little out of hand, is do we pay for the tax map separate than paying for the rest of the reval, or is it all together? Because when finance was discussing it, we strictly talked about funding the tax maps.
Mhm.
Yeah, we were.
If it can all be together, then that would be, sure, special emergency
Yeah,
appropriation.
I don't think you
spread
should
over
fund
5 years.
any part of this from your operating budget.
no, but are we funding the whole thing, the special appropriation now for
For the tax
a couple
maps and
$100,000
the revenue.
and the tax maps? Or is this just the tax maps?
No, you don't do 2, you're doing one.
That's what I'm at, this
One,
is, you do one now.
You're gonna do it all together.
So that means we probably need the price of the company
Right.
that we want to go with, so we add the 14,000
Right.
proposal for tax maps plus the however much.
Plus some-
Remember, if you're going to do something that's financed, just like you do when you do a road, for example, you adopt the ordinance, that's your authorization to spend. It doesn't, until you actually get notes or something for that, you haven't spent the money, you've just made an authorization to spend. If in fact it turns out that it's less, then you don't spend the money, you never put out the bonds, you never get the money. If it turns out that it's more, just like has happened when we've done these road projects, you amend the ordinance and then you increase the appropriation. So it's impossible at this point to determine exactly what this reval is going to cost. So what you're going to do, presumably, is make an estimate and then authorize the preparation of an ordinance for that appropriation and then proceed. You'll certainly have enough in the ordinance to do tax maps, and you certainly have enough, you will have enough, because that's what you'll base the estimate on, in good faith to go out and get, I'm trying to remember, do we have to bid?
No, they're
That's-
state approved.
That's an
firms.
exception,
Yeah,
right?
they're-
So
yes, they're
we don't have to
state-approved
bid
firms
those, so
that-
when we find out how much it's gonna cost
You have to
exactly,
hire.
when you get a price, we'll either have hit the number, or not. If we didn't hit the number, we may have to increase the amount of the ordinance.
I don't think it's a bond ordinance, it's a special,
No,
it's a
right.
special ordinance that
Right.
you don't borrow money, you have to raise it over the next 5 years. So
Yes,
you have to put- We did it recently, we did it not too long ago, we did one.
right, we did
Remember?
for a payout.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, well,
Same
it's a
thing.
s- it's
Yeah.
Special emergency.
So-
It's not
funds.
emergency, it's just special, it's not.
Do you need from us the amount
No, I
that we
think
would
it
like
is
this
an
to be
emergency.
now?
Maybe it's
I could be
emergency,
wrong.
maybe it isn't, I don't know. Anyway, I can come up with the amount, because I'm gonna call one of those companies, and I'm gonna call around, poke around, find out what I'm dealing with. I already got the estimate from Don,
Right.
I'm
Okay,
gonna find out what other costs are involved, and I'll come up with a number, and then you.
And yes, you have to get notes, because otherwise, if you gotta spend it all, for example, next year, you have to pay for it next year, then you pay it off over the 5 years, you don't, in other words,
That's where we run through. Before, yeah.
Mhm. So
So
nothing
we'll find out
really can be
exactly.
decided
Yeah.
you have
tonight
to get the
anyway.
number.
But I'll go ahead and poke around and find out, I'll get some ideas about what we're dealing with, you know, how much it's gonna cost. That's what, he wants to start working on those maps, but I can't authorize him to work on those maps when I have no mechanism to pay him.
Correct, okay.
That's all.
Okay, we'll move on to proclamation, POW/MIA Remembrance Day, September 15, 2017. Ms. Ariano. Payment claims, please.
Be resolved that the following claims as approved be in the same or hereby ordered paid when properly signed and verified in payment of payroll is processed and hereby confirmed and ratified.
Do you have a motion to adopt payment of claims?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, Ms. Ariano.
Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Aye.
Councilman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro. Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
And Council President Tedesco.
Aye.
The regular meeting of the mayor and council will be held on Tuesday, September 12, 2017, in council chambers at 7:15 p.m. Workshop session to start at 7 p.m. There will be a public hearing in council chambers on ordinance number 17-17 and on ordinance 17-18 on Tuesday, September 12, 2017, at 7:15 p.m. or soon thereafter. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.